see a long-term ownership position, and I see it bringing great stability to that part of the Middle East and maybe the entire Middle East. And everybody I've spoken to, this was not a decision made lightly.
What's going on, guys? It's Leighton here, back with another video from Moderately Black. If it's your first time watching my channel, we do discussions about what's going on in the media, especially related to politics, social environment here in the U.S. In this video, Trump is talking about a plan that he has to take over and rebuild the Gaza Strip. Very, very interesting plan, because this was not something that was definitely on the agenda during his run. So let's jump in together. We'll take a look, and of course I'll give my opinion on it. Love to hear your feedback, guys. Let's jump right in.
President Trump laying out a historic plan for the Gaza Strip during his press conference with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday that could be a step towards peace in the Middle East.
I do see a long-term ownership position, and I see it bringing great stability to that part of the Middle East and maybe the entire Middle East. And everybody I've spoken to, this was not a decision made lightly. And I think this is an idea that's gotten tremendous, and I'm talking about from the highest level of leadership, gotten tremendous praise. And if the United States can help to bring stability and peace in the Middle East, we'll do that.
Wisconsin Congressman Derek Van Orden joins me now. Congressman, good morning to you. This is a very unique suggestion, ownership of the Gaza Strip. So what do you think about this, and how would this work?
Well, this is what I think. Ownership can mean a lot of stuff. And what President Trump is clearly articulated is that there has to be a change in the Middle East. So does this mean a U.S. base in the Middle East? Does this mean a real estate company developing the Gaza Strip? I'm not really sure. But what this has done has sent a shockwave across the Middle East, telling everybody that the United States is going to be actively involved in making sure, first and foremost, that Israel is safe and that we have peace and stability in the Middle East.
And yesterday he said that it could take U.S. troops on the ground in the region. All possibilities appear to still be on the table. What do you think about that?
I think it's very important that the people that hate Israel and the United States understand that everything is always on the table. That's from peace negotiation to a very strong and stern military reaction to what they're doing in the region. So President Trump is projecting strategic strength, which is exactly what President Biden did not do for 4 years. That's why we're here right now. So something's going to change. We're going to bring peace and stability back to the Middle East to make sure that our closest ally there, Israel, is safe, and that our allies, the other allies in the region, start making sure that they respect the United States for what we are, which is the most powerful nation in the entire world.
Yeah, it's
So, did not expect that to happen. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't think anyone really was looking at that. I think the thing that no one really wants right now is provoking a war, because I think us going into the Middle East is going to start another war, start another conflict. With Iran there, they already don't like us. Apparently Saudi Arabia is not very happy with this decision as well. They don't want us to be involved. They don't want our presence there. And so I think this is really just going to be a catalyst that's going to perhaps lead to war. And the president is also saying that troops are maybe going to enter Gaza if necessary. I really don't think anyone in America wants us to be deployed to the Middle East. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't think anyone in the U.S. Really cares about having another war where American lives are lost. So very interesting development.
Certainly. I just think it's a fascinating suggestion. You see this one glimmer of, well, if everybody could get on board with this, Israel would be more secure, Palestinians would be out of a war zone, and there would be regional stability, which is clearly what Donald Trump wants. It would also potentially take the Palestinians agreeing to leave the region, or many of them, and also for other countries in that area, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Qatar, to agree to take them in, so to clear out some of the people so that the Gaza Strip could be rebuilt. The only issue with that is that Saudi Arabia is not on board with this idea. They posted this on X, saying the foreign ministry affirms that Saudi Arabia's position on the establishment of a Palestinian state is firm and unwavering. And establishing, Congressman, diplomatic ties with Israel would also depend on this. So yesterday, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he does think that the two countries could normalize relations. But, man, it does look like that still is going to be a big challenge.
Well, let's remember, before October 7th, there was de facto a Palestinian state. There was. And the Palestinians allowed Hamas to take over. Hamas attacked Israel in the most brutal fashion since World War II. It was essentially a 21st century Holocaust. And Saudi Arabia needs to understand something. The 1967 Green Line, the border, is unacceptable. That exposes Israel in a way that is simply not going to happen, because when you close those borders, the proximity of Israel is so much smaller than people here in the United States understand. So Israel doesn't deserve to live in peace. They deserve to live in peace and prosperity and security. We've got to understand that.
Yeah.
So Saudi Arabia is going to get on board. They will. If people haven't learned anything from the last couple of weeks of President Trump in office, they need to open their eyes. So Mexico's on board. They didn't want to be on board. Canada's on board. Didn't want to be on board. Colombia's on board. They didn't want to be on board. Saudi Arabia's going to get on board.
Yeah, how about that? You mentioned peace and prosperity.
That's a very strong statement. I mean, you know, we've especially this past couple of weeks, we've really been strong-arming everyone that we, you know, are having issues with. For example, the tariff threats against Canada, the tariff threats against Mexico. And literally within 2 or 3 days, you know, when they realized, holy crap, this guy's serious, they dropped the, you know, I hate to say it this way, but they dropped the pants, so to speak, and bent over and, you know, allowed what has to take place to take place. So it's kind of funny that, you know, the Saudis have now come and said, well, yeah, we're not cool with this, so we'll see what happens with that situation. The difference, though, is that Saudi doesn't have the military might that America has. Well, I think no one really has the military might that America has. Russia is running on fumes right now because of the war in Ukraine. Maybe only the Chinese, and they're not really seeming like they're interested in a war. So very, very curious to see what happens here. Well, let's continue.
Prosperity for Israel, one piece of that, probably the biggest piece, is Iran, and there was major news on that front. United States going back to the maximum pressure campaign of the first Trump term. Take a listen.
We also took action to restore a maximum pressure policy on the Iranian regime, and we will once again enforce the most aggressive possible sanctions, drive Iranian oil exports to zero, and diminish the regime's capacity to fund terror.
We're both committed to rolling back Iran's aggression in the region and ensuring that Iran never develops a nuclear weapon.
So President Trump feels like this worked last time. Will it work this time around?
Yes. I mean, so what we have is the ability to look back when, in his first term, when Iran was on their knees. Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, period, because they will use it. And they respond to pressure just like everybody else does. So what they're not going to get is the Obama pallets full of cash. They're not going to get the Joe Biden relaxing these sanctions. What they're going to get is what they deserve right now as a rogue regime, and that is nothing from the international community, period. Yeah. So cut off all their sales of oil. If they try to accelerate the process again to get a nuclear weapon, then we're going to have to deal with that in a different way, because I'm going to say this one more time. Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, and President Trump is doing a fantastic job. Pete is in, along with Mike Waltz as National Security Advisor, and those guys are going to make sure that we have peace and stability and that Iran adheres to international norms.
Yeah, and the president said yesterday that if he is assassinated by Iran, he left instructions. They will be obliterated. Leaving instructions is another major...
You know, leaving instructions is a crazy statement. Let's just get that out of the way, right? Saying that if anything happens to me, you know what to do. As they would say in Atlanta, the block will be spun for the president. So that's very, 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 very interesting. We'll definitely see what comes of this, because I know that although these are very tense times that we're living in, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with number one, it's going to be interesting to see exactly what strategy we're going to use to, take over and rebuild Gaza. And then also it's going to be very interesting to see what the reactions of countries in that area are to this action happening. So, very, very curious. Again, this was not really something that anyone expected. I personally was hoping that, we'd kind of just pull out of all of these wars and you just kind of, go back to some normalcy in the world and strive for peace. I think this might trigger war, but again, it could kind of have the same effect that, the actions and, the tariffs had with the rest of the countries that we have close to us. So the difference, though, is the Middle East is not necessarily close to us. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Those are my thoughts, so guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you like these videos, please drop a like, drop a sub. It definitely helps the channel out. And I will see you in the next video. Take care.